So let's go ahead and have a seat, and we'll kind of check in with ourselves, see how everything is feeling. So aligning your spine, relaxing your shoulders, relaxing your jaw. In fact, let's just take a huge inhale through the nose and sigh out any tension. Just kind of let go of anything that came before this moment. Just be right in the moment, preparing yourself for your yoga practice by feeling into your body. Really paying attention to anything that your body is trying to let you know right now. And then starting to deepen the breath and slow it down. And then just checking in with thoughts, emotions, what your energy feels like right now. And kind of deciding what you need from today's practice. And so just remembering that no matter what I ask you to do, you can make it really gentle, even gentler, or you can make it really intense. So we're all doing the same practice, and yet it's going to feel 100% different for every single one of us. So you get to have the practice that you need. So be clear about what it is that you need. And then when you are clear, bring your palms together in front of your heart. And let's take a moment and really be focused on our own specific needs. And then to kind of seal the deal, deep breath in, big exhale. We'll just start on hands and knees, just kind of loosening up. So with the emphasis being on the larger muscles of the glutes, as well as that skinny little muscle that runs underneath it, the piriformis, those are so important when it comes to low back comfort. So we're going to kind of loosen up the back a little bit, cat-cow stretches, but you can do any other kind of movement you want to do. Just think of this as not only exploring how your back feels right now, but also just loosening it up. I like to do like a slow tail wag and kind of circle my hips while I'm doing the arching and rounding of cat-cow. You may want to do something completely different. Just kind of move mindfully with your breath to loosen up your spine. And then when you're ready, you'll move on and exhale to take your backside to your heels and let your forehead come down to child's pose. In a full-on traditional child's pose with the knees together, you'll notice you're already starting to stretch out those gluteal muscles. They're lengthened right here. And your low back is stretching out too. So you might want to send a breath or two into the low back. And then we're going to crawl forward onto our stomachs, coming into Sphinx. Just a reminder, if your back does not like extension, which means arching, you can still lengthen out in Sphinx. I know I always tell you to have your forearms flat with your elbows underneath your shoulders, but did you know that you can be almost flat prone on your stomach if you need to, and just kind of lift the chest and pull with the arms? So just, if you're ever in a position where your back doesn't like arching, feel free to do Sphinx this way, where you're almost flat. As long as your buns are soft, your big toes are touching and your heels are open, you can still get that low back lengthening, that lumbar spine lengthening. So feel free to do that anytime you need to. And then from here, let's go ahead and move into downward facing dog. Spread your fingers, push your tailbone up and back. You know, and on this first one, it's always okay to just kind of check in with things. You can pedal your feet, wiggle a little bit if you need to. And then go ahead and create some space between the ears and shoulders. Press your hips up and back, again, lengthening the spine. and beginning to press the heels down. From here, we'll gently walk the feet forward, keep the knees bent, relax your neck, and just hang. So a lot of what helps us lengthen these muscles out, and they run in a lot of different directions, by the way. We have glute maximus, but we've also got medius and minimus. So there's different muscles here in our back sides, but they're so crucial for our posture and our walking. And so it's really nice to know that they're lengthening here, and it has to do with your pelvis. So while you're here for 2 more breaths in your ragdoll, I want you to imagine that your tailbone is starting to poke up towards the ceiling. Or you can think of it as the front of your hip bones are kind of tipping forward onto your thighs. All right, let's inhale, reach the arms all the way up and overhead, stretch up. And as you exhale, bring your palms together in front of your heart. Inhale, reach the arms up. And exhale, fold forward. Fingertips are down, even if you need to bend the knees. And so that's one of the reasons we say bend your knees in a forward bend if you need to, because the forward bend should involve your pelvis tipping forward. And if you happen to have really tight hips or hamstrings and your pelvis doesn't tip, your forward bend will come from your back. And that's not a good idea. So bend your knees if you need to. Fingertips are down. On your next inhale, pull your chest forward. Half forward bend, and then exhale all the way back down. We're going to step back with the right foot. Big step back with your right foot. Hold your lunge here for a moment. And then go ahead and drop your right knee down. We're going to put the left hand on the inside of the left knee. And kind of gently let your hips move forward and then roll onto the outside edge of your left foot and start to press that left leg open. How much is up to you. It depends on your hip mobility and what you're feeling right now. The whole idea is to be really mindful. I'm going to have you hold this for a couple of extra breaths. Please keep your left ankle and foot flexed, because you'll see in this position, I've asked you to let your hips come forward, right? I want you to be very mindful of what your body is feeling, but if you can, keep the same amount of pressure on the inside of your left knee and very gently and slowly start to move your hips back. You'll kind of cross through a point where you feel nothing, and then all of a sudden, oh, hello. There's that left outer hip. Make sure it's an appropriate level of stretch. Take one more breath. Good. And then you can just let your left knee point at the ceiling again. Hands are on either side of your left foot, or if need be, they can be on blocks or even on your thigh. And then we're going to extend the left leg fully and pull the chest forward. So that hamstring stretch. A lot of times we feel like our hamstrings are really tight, and it's actually not the hamstrings, it's the glutes. Having said that, there are some of us who truly have tight hamstrings, so don't just assume it's glutes, but a lot of times it is. Let's take one more breath here. And then not to neglect the front of the hips, bend your left knee. Let's go ahead and bring the arms up and overhead. Tuck that tailbone under. This time we're tilting the pelvis back and sinking the hips forward to find sensation on the front of the right hip. Good. Bring your hands down. Take your left knee back to meet your right knee. Wag your tail a moment. Those of you that like doing vinyasas at this point, off you go, you know when and how to do that. The rest of us are going to go ahead and take a child's pose. We're going to be moving pretty slowly through our practice today. I want you to have the time to really feel each part of what you're doing. You'll have several breaths so that you can feel changes taking place. After you've been in your child's pose a yummy amount of time, come forward into either Sphinx or Cobra. Remembering that you can flatten out all the way, or for those of you who do like the extension, you could actually lift up more. Everybody's body is different. And part of what we're supposed to do in our practice is pay attention to and honor what's best for us in that given moment. And it changes moment by moment. That's why we always have to pay attention. Let's go ahead and move into downward facing dog. Once you've had time to really lengthen your spine in your downward facing dog, step forward up between the hands with your right foot. We'll just hold the lunge for a couple of breaths. Drop the left knee down. Go ahead and let the hips move forwards. You're letting them sink forward. And put your right hand on the inside of the right knee, roll onto the outside edge of your right foot, and then begin to apply the pressure. Now, right now, we've got our hips moving forward. We're just kind of easing into all of this. No rush, no hurry. We want to have time to pay attention to whatever sensation we're feeling in the right hip. And then we're going to keep that foot flexed because that protects the knee. We'll keep the pressure on the right knee and just very gently start to move the hips back until, there it is, that sensation in the right outer hip. And it should change. It should feel different from when your hips were forward. We'll take one more breath here. And then just let that right knee point back up at the ceiling. Right hand comes down. Extend your right leg, flex the ankle and toes, and pull your heart forward. Couple more breaths. Remember, you want to kind of try and keep the spine lengthened here. And again, part of what we're doing is making sure it's our glutes that are releasing. If you're rounding and hunching your back here, you're stretching your back. But if you keep your spine straight and neutral, then you're stretching your glutes and your hamstrings. Let's go ahead and bend the right knee. Bring the arms up and overhead. Tilt the pelvis back and just let the hips move forward so that we can feel the front of the left hip. Hands come down, step forward to your standing forward bend. And we're going to pause here because, again, I want you to tip your pelvis forward. That means you're trying to poke your tailbone up towards the ceiling. Make sure your neck is relaxed. Take another breath. And then on your next inhale, bring the arms all the way up. And as you exhale, palms together in front of your heart. So we're going to do a couple of yogic squats real quick. And of course, you're going to pay attention to knee issues. If you've got knee issues, then you're not going to go that deep. But what we're going to make sure that we're doing is keeping the glutes lengthening and not tightening. And I know you've probably heard me say this before, but it's really important to me that you actually understand why I'm picky about these things. So I want you to take your feet to the width of your mat and just humor me for a moment and rotate your feet out to the sides. You don't even have to do anything else. Put your hands on your booty, and do you feel how it already tightened? We're trying to stretch these muscles. If your feet are extra wide and your toes are rotated out, you cannot stretch a muscle that's clenched and contracted. Now, keep your hands on your booty. Rotate your toes forward. You should have felt the muscles relax a little bit. And then just move your feet in one step with your toes pointing forward. Now feel your backside. It's contracted enough to hold you upright, but it shouldn't be tight like it was before. So here's what I'm going to encourage you to do today. Even if you don't go very far down, keep your feet slightly narrower than the edges of your mat and keep them pointing forward. So let's take it slow. Start poking your buns back because I need you to keep your heels flat. Put your hands on your thighs. Knees are the same distance apart as your feet are. Maybe you can drop the buns a little more and put your forearms on your thighs. And this might be enough. If it is, fantastic. Just keep your chest lifted. We don't want to round forward because we're trying to get the glutes. If you feel like you can go farther, hands can go to the floor and you can drop the buns more. A couple of you guys have a pretty good squat and you can just let your buns drop and lift your chest. Now, if your feet are still relatively close together and pointing forward, your glutes are lengthening. Let's take one more breath. And then go ahead and come all the way back up. Good. Now, here's my little helpful hint for today. And I have no idea, you guys are all practicing in different parts of your house. You may or may not have anything that you can grab hold of, but this is just for your own use for later. For those of you that don't have such great mobility in this area, if you have something that you can hang on to really well, and you need like a countertop or a column or really heavy duty furniture, one of the things that you can do, and I'm going to pretend I'm hanging on, is hang on to something, either a column or a countertop, and have your feet together pointing forward. And in that position, do a deep squat. You'll be able to hang on and get really far down and hold it for a breath, and then pull yourself back up. So if you have something nearby, give that a try. And if you don't, you can repeat what we just did. If you have really good mobility, you're welcome to do it just freestanding like you saw me do. Feet are together if you can. Hang on if you need to. Don't go any deeper than you can. If you've got nothing to hang on to, you can still just kind of rest your forearms on your knees or thighs. Otherwise, try and get a deep squat for a couple of breaths. And then come all the way back up and just roll your shoulders back. By the way, if you do that with your chest lifted, it's a nice way to lengthen the low back. So we're going to take a big inhale, reach the arms up, stretch up. And then as you exhale, fold forward. Look up halfway, lengthen your spine, and then back down. I'd like you to step back with your right foot. Spin that heel flat, and you're going to come up into a warrior two. Your left knee is bent, your right leg is straight. You guys know your alignment cues on this. We're going to use this to open up the left hip a little bit. Not so terribly different from that move that we did in a kneeling position. So your left hand is literally on the inside of your left thigh, just above or by the knee. Your right hand is going to start to slide down your right leg. It depends on your mobility. It might just be right below the right knee, or you might get all the way down to your right ankle. But you're going to keep your left knee bent, and then what I'd like you to do is press your left arm straight. What you're basically doing is pushing your torso towards the right. If you have the flexibility, you're welcome to take your left hand higher inside that left thigh. Take one more breath. You should feel this in your left hip and in the left side of your spine. Now here's what I want you to do. Bring your hands to the floor on the inside of your left foot. Just keep your hands here. All I want you to do without changing the feet, in other words, your right heel is still flat, is just start pulling your left hip back and your right hip forward. That's all you got to do. You should start to feel that in your left hip. Just take a couple of breaths. Good. From here, you can swivel onto your right toes and take the left hand outside the left foot and step straight back to downward facing dog. Push the tailbone up and back and just notice if your left hip feels a little different from your right hip. Go ahead and walk your feet forward to that standing forward bend. Knees bent if necessary so that you can feel your pelvis tipping forward. And again, notice here, like I can really feel that my left glute is looser now than my right one. So that's a good thing because we still have to do the right one. Inhale, reach the arms up. And as you exhale, bring your palms together in front of your heart. Inhale, reach up. And as you exhale, fold forward. Look up halfway. And then back down. So now we're going to step back with the left leg. Go ahead and spin your left heel flat and come up into your warrior two on the right side. All we're going to do is traction out. Take that right hand, put it on the inside of your right knee or thigh. Let your left hand start to slide down as far as you can towards the left ankle. And it's okay if it doesn't go all the way. So when you first do this, your right elbow is bent. That's cool. But now push against your right thigh until your right arm is straight. It's going to make your torso drift to the left. That's the idea. Now you should be feeling the right side of your spine and your right hip. Take one more breath. We're going to bring the hands to the floor and just walk them into the inside of the right foot. Your feet are just like they were. We haven't changed foot position at all. All I want you to do is pull your right hip back and your left hip forward. This should be all it takes to get some sensation in that right outer hip. One more breath. And then just swivel onto the left toes. Take your right hand outside your right foot. Step back, downward facing dog. Press those hips back and see if maybe they feel more similar. Hopefully they do. And then we'll walk the feet forward to that standing forward bend with the pelvis tipping forward. Notice if, again, right glute and left glute feel about the same. And then inhale, arms come up. And exhale, palms together in front of the heart. So our balance pose is going to be a glute stretch. If you need something to hang on to, that's fine, but this pose is actually easier than it looks if you truly follow all the instructions. It's easier to balance in it than it looks like it should be. The things that are most important are that your tailbone pushes back while your arms reach forward. That's kind of that counterbalance. I would love for you to stand on your left foot first today. What we're going to do is it's kind of like a figure four stretch, except we're doing it standing. You're going to do a lot of figure four stretching. We're skipping pigeon today because it's not great for some people's knees, but we'll do all the other variations. And figure four is a variation of pigeon. So your right ankle is going to cross your left thigh just above the knee, and then you flex that ankle and you press the leg out. So you kind of have this figure four. Here's where the balance part comes in, and it's easier than you think. Your arms are overhead. Keep them overhead. Start to poke your tailbone back as you bend your left knee. So what you're trying to do is keep reaching forward with the arms, keep reaching back with your tailbone, and as you're bending your left knee, you start leaning out over that right shin, and what you should get is a nice stretching sensation in your right glute and piriformis. That would be your right buttock. Take a couple more breaths. And then come back up and put your right foot back on the ground. We take the left ankle over the right knee on top of the thigh. The ankle flexes and the leg presses out. So again, you've got that figure four with your legs. Your arms are overhead. You start to poke your tailbone back while you're hinging forward at that right hip, but your right knee is bending too. Keep your left ankle flexed. It's kind of like you're trying to extend your spine out over your left shin, and you keep doing this until you feel your left glute, your left piriformis, your left buttock. And come on up. Feet together, palms together. Inhale, reach your arms up, stretch. And as you exhale, fold forward, fingertips down. Inhale, look up halfway. Exhale, back down. I'd like you to step back onto hands and knees. Please feel free to wag the tail if you need to, or wiggle. If you're comfortable with it, bring your knees completely together. And by the way, if you do have knee issues, be very mindful of what you're doing here. Don't do anything that doesn't feel good. So what we're gonna do is just get a really gentle outer hip stretch. You're gonna keep both feet and knees down and together. And just start to bring your hips off to the right. So you don't want your left knee to lift, and you're not trying to separate the knees. Like, the goal is not to get the right hip to the ground, but just to kind of push it over to the right so you feel the stretch. And then you bring your hips back up and you push them over to the left a little bit. The knees stay together and on the ground. Remember, you're not trying to get anywhere. We just want to feel sensation. And then come on up from that. And let's take one last child's pose. From here, you can scoot forward either into Sphinx or Cobra. Remember, you're welcome to lengthen out completely in Sphinx if that's better for you. And then one last downward facing dog to really create more space in the spine. Shoulders are moving away from each other, so there's no compression in the neck. And then we're pressing our hips as far up and back as possible. Trying to press the heels down. And then from here, you can just walk your feet forward, have a seat. And I'm actually going to have you start in cross-legged position today, if you can. If cross legs don't work for you, you can do this with your legs extended, but it'll just look a little bit different. Because I'm going to have you do those torso circles so that you can feel into your hips. So hands are on the knees. We're going to go 3 in each direction. As you exhale, you're leaning forward. Going slow so you can feel what's going on in your hips. And then as you inhale, that's your backward lean. If you've got your legs extended, you'll want to tuck your hands under your thighs so that you don't fall over backwards. Really pay attention to what you feel around the sides of the hips when you're leaning. And when you've had 3 in one direction, just switch and go the other way. Being very mindful of anything you're feeling around hips and glutes. So one of the reasons I love doing these is that all of the muscles that we don't talk about or hear about or think about kind of get to get some attention here. We have a lot of outer hip muscles that we don't talk about a lot. And so you kind of get to feel those here too. Good. Go ahead and come on back up. Extend your legs out in front of you. So we're going to keep the left leg straight first. I want you to go ahead and bring your right foot on top of your left thigh, just above the knee, and flex the ankle. Look, it's the same leg position that we had standing on one leg. If you look down, you've got this figure 4. Right ankle stays flexed to protect that knee. Go ahead and lean out over your left leg. Doesn't matter how far you get. And you may not get as far as you normally do because you've got your leg on top. And then for just a moment, bring your awareness to your pelvis. So does it feel like you can kind of poke your tailbone back behind you? Or do you feel like your tailbone's tucked under you and you're stretching your back? So if that's the case and you feel rounded and hunched, I'm going to encourage you to just barely lift your bum and kind of try and poke your tailbone behind you, and then lean out over that left leg. So let's take a couple of breaths. Those of us that have a tight right hip are feeling this in the hip already. If your hips are not tight, then you're just feeling your left hamstring. We're gonna come up from this, put the hands right behind the backside, push into the floor for a very straight spine, and then bend the left knee. Now, if your right hip is tight, again, you're already feeling this. If not, then you scooch up towards your left heel. Please pay attention to what your body is doing. If your hands are way behind you, or your elbows are bent, or your back is rounded, you're missing the point. Push into the floor, lift the chest, and press it forward. We're trying to get an extended spine out over this right shin. It's just like when we were standing on one leg. So let's take a couple more breaths. Keep the right ankle flexed. Keep your heart lifting, pressing forward. You should definitely be feeling this in your right buttock. And then all we're gonna do from here is just let that left leg drop all the way over to the left. I want you to feel the whole sole of your right foot on the floor. And it's fine if your right bun lifted up, that's fine. Right foot stays flat, and we come into a twist. The right hand is behind us. You can either hug the right knee or bring the elbow outside of it. If you keep your spine lifted and you start to twist, you might actually feel your right hip in addition to the rotation of the spine. So take a couple of breaths here. Excellent. Go ahead and unwind the legs, extend them out. Feel free to give your legs a little wiggle. So this is a good place to make sure you're on those sit bones. And then we'll keep the right leg straight. Bring your left foot on top of your right thigh. Flex the ankle. Remember, you're looking for that figure four. So if your leg is way over and your foot's on the ground, be more mindful of your posture. Really try and get your left foot literally on top of your right thigh with the ankle flexed. And then lean out over your right leg. Remember, again, you may not go as far as you go when your foot is inside your thigh, because if your hips are tight, they're preventing you. So try and poke your tailbone back. Take a couple of breaths here. Notice if you're feeling it at all in the left hip or if it's all the right hamstring. And then we're going to come up from here and bring our hands right behind us. Push into the floor for a straight spine. Bend your right knee. Keep your left ankle flexed. Decide if you need to scooch up a little bit towards that left ankle to get sensation, but keep your spine lifted. Keep your left ankle flexed. So you're trying to lift your heart and press it forward. It's almost like you want to get your chest on your shin, or like you're trying to get this left foot into your right armpit. I don't expect you to do that, but that's just kind of some markers that you can use. Make sure your chest is lifting, that you're not rounding your back, that you're not bending the elbows and leaning back. Just a couple more breaths. And then from here, we'll just drop that right leg over till the whole left foot hits the floor. Left bun might pop up, that's okay. Left hand behind us, and we're twisting to the left. Keep your spine straight, straight, straight as you rotate to look over your left shoulder. See if maybe you can feel a little something in that left hip. Excellent. And then we'll just unwind and come back to the center. Extend your legs out. Give them a good wiggle. Good. We're going to keep the left leg straight. I want you to go ahead and bend your right knee. You're going to use your left hand to grab your right foot. I like to keep my right hand on my right knee. And just a little pointer, if your left hand is on your right foot, push it into dorsiflexion. You want your knee really happy here. What I'm going to ask you to do is lift your chest and see if you can lift your right leg. Now, if you can, this is again where you're totally in charge of everything. If you can, you just gently start to pull this very flexed right foot towards your left armpit. You have two options here.
I like to pull on my foot with both hands. Some people prefer to pull on the foot with the left hand and press on the right thigh or knee with the right hand. Keep your chest lifted. Again, you should feel this in your glute. It's like doing pigeon, but you're not lying down on top of your leg. Take one more breath here. And bring the right leg back down. Bend your left knee. Grab your left foot with your right hand. The left hand is on the left knee. Flex that left ankle. Lift your chest. Start to pull the foot towards the armpit. You can use your left hand to press on your left thigh, or you can use your left hand to add some extra leverage to the foot. Keep the chest lifted. We're trying to find sensation in that left glute. One more breath. And release your left leg out and wiggle. Now, I want you to really try and kind of scoot your sit bones back. Imagine that you can feel your tailbone poking behind you. And if that feels impossible, you might want to elevate your hips and sit on a blanket or a bolster. Flex the ankles of both legs. Lift your chest and start to lean forward. But I don't want you to lean from the upper torso. I want you to imagine it's your pelvis tipping forward. Only go as far as you can go forward with your hip bones. In other words, no rounding and hunching from the mid and upper back. Only the hips are hinging. Take a couple more breaths here and then you'll get to lie down. Good. From here, we're just going to bend the knees, roll onto the back, hug the knees in, and rock side to side. And just in case you haven't had enough fun in all those figure four variations, here's the real deal. Figure four on the back, right ankle crosses left knee, flex your right ankle. So if you look down, you have this triangle here that you've made with your legs. Your right hand is going to go through that. Your left hand is around the outside. You can grab behind your left thigh if you have a sensitive left knee, or you can grab the front of your left shin. Keep your right ankle flexed, relax your neck, and then pull. Start pulling your left knee in towards your chest, as though you're going to put your right foot in your left armpit. Just take a few slow breaths here, making sure you're really getting into this. Like not just hanging out, but truly feeling an appropriate amount of sensation in your right glute. By the way, all of these things for glutes and piriformis that you've done today, if you ever have issues with sciatica, these are your go-tos. They will help relieve the pressure. All right, we're going to take it one step deeper. Your right ankle that's in front of you, grab it with both hands. Put your left foot back down on the floor. Your left knee is bent. This is just like what we just did sitting. Go ahead and see if you can open your right knee up to about 90 degrees. Flex the ankle and just start to pull your right foot towards your left armpit. What's cool about this is that now you can play with the angle of your right leg to get the best glute and piriformis stretch. Take 2 more breaths. And then let that right thigh really tightly cross your left thigh. Super tight crossing of the legs. Lift your left foot back off the ground and hug the knees in. Now, if you've got tight hips, just doing this, you feel your right glute. If you want more, you flex the ankles. You reach down and grab the ankles or feet. And again, I'm going to encourage you to open the knees to about 90 degrees and then pull slightly on your feet until you feel this in that right side of your backside. Just a couple more breaths here, and then we will leave the right side alone. Beautiful. Unwind. Hug both knees in. Just pause for a moment. You can rock side to side if you want, or just hug the knees. And just pause for a moment to notice, does right side feel different from left side? It should, because we did a lot of stuff on the right side. So now we do all that stuff on the left. We're going to put the right foot on the mat with the knee bent. Cross that left ankle over the right knee. Let the left knee drop open. So it's a wide crossing of the legs, coming into figure 4 on the left side. Left hand reaches through that triangular space that you just created when you crossed your leg. And then the right hand's around the outside. So you're either grabbing behind the right thigh or in front of the right shin. Left ankle stays flexed, and then you pull. Kind of like you're trying to pull that left foot towards your right armpit. If you're feeling it in the left side of your back side, then you're doing great. That's all that's required. Couple more breaths. Now, this left foot that's in front of you, just grab it and go ahead and put your right foot back down. Keep your left ankle flexed. See if you can open the left knee up to maybe about 90 degrees. And then you just gently start to pull the left foot towards the right armpit. It might be light years away. That's okay. We're looking for sensation. Take one more breath. And you can kind of play with the angle of that left leg here now. You've got more options, right? There's more freedom. And then we're going to release the left foot and let that left thigh tightly cross the right thigh. Hug the knees in. Decide on this side, is this enough or do you need more? If you need more, you flex the ankles. Grab the feet or ankles. Try and get a 90-degree angle at the knees and then pull gently on them until your left glute says you're in the right spot, and leave it there and breathe. Couple more breaths and it'll all be over. Unwind your legs and just hug your knees in. And of course, you're welcome to rock. But just take a moment and notice, how do the buns feel? Things should feel a lot looser in there about now. So let's go ahead and put the feet on the mat flat. Knees are bent. I want you to take your feet slightly wider than your yoga mat, so your feet are actually on your floor. We're just going to do really slow rhythmic movements here to kind of say hello to these outer hips a tiny bit. As you exhale, let both knees drop to one side. Nice slow breathing, because you're only going to stay here till the end of the exhale. As you inhale, your knees are going to come back up. And as you exhale, you're going to take them the opposite direction. So you got a couple things going on here. As you inhale the legs up, your hips return to neutral. And as you exhale and drop them over, they roll a little bit. So the low back is getting settled down. That little gentle hip roll is good for things in the back. But the other thing that's happening is as you exhale, the knee that's towards the center of the mat, the iliotibial band, tensor fascia latae, which is another outer hip muscle, where your medial glutes attach, all of that is getting a gentle stretch. And the reason we're going with the breath is because we don't want to torque that and put a foot on a knee, because we haven't really been working that area that much. So you're inhaling knees up, exhaling and dropping them over. We'll go a couple more times on each side. The slower you breathe, the more time you have to actually feel what's happening in the stretch. Next time that your knees return to the center, go ahead and just let them prop together. Just kind of notice how that feels in the outer hips, and then you can just toe heel the feet all the way in towards each other. Now I want you to keep your left knee bent with the foot flat, just like it is. Go ahead and fully extend your right leg up. We're going to kind of play with the difference between the hamstrings and the glutes here. So your right leg is as straight as you can get it, and it just depends on where it's pointing, whether you grab your thigh, your calf, your foot, or maybe even just your pants. But I want you to keep your leg really straight and then start to pull the leg towards you. So right now, you're truly stretching the hamstring. And there's a little bit of glute action involved. But now we're going to change it. And this is what most people want to do when I ask them to do this stretch. Bend your knee a little bit. It doesn't have to be a lot. Okay, so at that point, as soon as you bent your knee a little bit, you didn't feel the hamstring, right? That's good. We're going to keep the hamstring out of it. So I want you to keep this slight bend in the knee. Keep pulling on the leg. Begin to slide your left leg out straight. Maybe it goes straight, maybe it doesn't. The idea is now, while you might feel a little something in the hamstring, you're getting a lot of length through the glute. And now, once you get all that going on, try and poke your tailbone into your mat. So it's that slight forward tilt of the pelvis. We'll take 2 more breaths here. Go ahead and bend the left knee again. Hug your right knee in. Put your right foot flat on the floor. We're going to go ahead and hug the left knee in. Extend the left leg straight up, like straight up. Your left knee is fully extended. It couldn't get any straighter if your life depended on it. And it doesn't matter. Maybe your foot's pointing like forward instead of up. Have the leg totally straight. Then grab whatever you can reach and start to gently pull on it. Keep your left foot and ankle flexed. You're going to really feel your left hamstring. That's the back of your left thigh. That's really what's getting stretched here. Now, all I want you to do is put a slight bend in the left knee. That's going to immediately relieve some of the pressure on your left hamstring. And I want you to just start pulling that bent knee leg in towards your chest. Keep your left foot flexed. Start to slide your right leg out and let it relax. And let's see if you can kind of poke your tailbone down into the mat. Now we're getting into the glute. Take a couple more breaths. Bend that right knee again. Hug the left knee in. Put your left foot down beside your right foot. Just kind of let those knees very slightly wiggle, wobble side to side. And then let your knees drop open with the soles of the feet together. Let's lengthen the low back. Inhale, flatten your low back. So you're really pressing the lumbar spine into the mat. This is that backward tilt of the pelvis. Exhale and release. Inhale, take the curve out of your low back. Press it flat into the mat. Exhale, allow that curve to return. Final time, inhale. Low back presses into the mat. You're flattening it out. Exhale, release it. And just like that, extend your legs. Wiggle your feet a little bit. Bring your hands below the height of the shoulders. Now I'm going to encourage you for just a moment to not go to like that habitual shavasana place. You've done a lot of gluteal stuff. I'm going to encourage you to experiment for just a moment with your leg position. Take your legs wider. Feel how even though your legs are relaxed, your buns are kind of engaged. What if you brought your feet a little closer together, or maybe a lot closer together, and let them flop? How does that feel? And then if you really feel like you need to take your legs farther apart, please do so. But maybe just for today, the legs are a little closer together than usual and you let them flop open so that those glutes can stay relaxed. And then make sure the spine feels long, and of course that includes your neck. Your jaw should be relaxed. So you should have a little bit of space between your teeth. All the muscles in the face are soft. That means lips, cheeks, the skin around the eyes. The eyelids are just floating on top of your eyes. You're not squeezing them shut. Your forehead is smooth. Your hands are relaxed. Everything is softening. Let's take a huge inhale through the nose. And exhale out any remaining tension. Just blow it out and settle in. Let your breath just kind of settle down. It'll find its way to a really quiet rhythm if you allow it to. And then bring your focus to your hips, specifically to your pelvis, actually. A lot of times I have you do hip work in yoga, and I talk to you about that energetic area. Today, I want you to just really focus on the physical, truly. Your pelvis is your center of gravity. And while that may not seem like much to you, it's actually incredibly important. You are an upright human. So first, we're going to have some gratitude for our feet and legs. They are the foundation that supports our pelvis. And then we're going to have some gratitude for the pelvis, for the hips, because that's what everything else is stacked upon. Between your pelvis and your rib cage, the only other bone in your body is your spines. There's a lot of muscles, your core muscles, that do a lot of work to hold you up. But your pelvis and the tilt of your pelvis and where it is in space is what helps you move through the world. And it's what holds up your upper body and your head. So if you think about that beautiful area of your body, it's your center of gravity. It's the center of you when you're upright and walking around. There's an immense amount of strength as well as mobility in this area. When is the last time, if ever, you've felt a true sense of awe and appreciation for your hips and your pelvis? And I encourage you to do that today. We have a tendency to be critical. We think our hips are too wide or too narrow or too flat or too large or too something. What if you just really experienced right now the truth of the matter that your hips are amazing. They are perfect. They carry you around. They sit on top of your legs so that you can ambulate, walk. They carry your head from one place to another since it's sitting on top of your torso, which is on top of your hips. They allow you to sit and stand and lie down. So for just the next minute or so, see if you can keep your awareness in that area of your anatomy. The pelvis itself, which are the bones, sometimes we think of them as our hip bones and sacrum. The muscles, all of those beautiful muscles that attach to your hips so that your upper body can move around with your lower body. Stay in a state of gratitude and appreciation. Go ahead and let your awareness move all the way out to the rest of your body.
Noticing how everything feels today. Start to breathe a little deeper. Start to move those extremities a little bit, fingers and toes. When you're ready, breathe in deeper, extend and spread the fingers and toes. Exhale and relax them. Even deeper breath in as you stretch. And exhale. Bend your knees. You can hug them in if that feels good. When you're ready, roll to your right side. And then from there, press yourself up into sitting. As you come to your seated position, make sure you really feel your sit bones. By the way, that's the bottom of your pelvis. And aren't you fortunate to have these nice glutes to pad that a little bit? So look, another reason to be thankful. If we didn't have glutes and pelvis, what would we sit on, right? Just taking a moment, finding that nice straight spine with relaxed shoulders. Tomorrow evening, we have a new moon, so we're going to honor that with a lunar breath today. And if you feel so inclined, it's purely optional, you might want to touch the tip of the ring finger to the tip of the thumb on the left hand and let that be palm up. We're just going to make a thumbs up sign with the right thumb. Block the right nostril. And if you can, I would love for you to do a 1-to-2 ratio breath through your left nostril. Let your exhale be twice as long as your inhale. But if that's too challenging, not necessary, just really slow, peaceful breaths in and out the left side. So off you go. Block the right nostril. 1-to-2 ratio breathing, Chandravarana. As you finish up that breath, let the right hand rest down. And we just pause for a moment and notice everything. The body, the breath, the thoughts, the emotions, the energy. Bringing palms together in front of the hearts, we take a moment in gratitude. Hopefully you are still feeling some gratitude for your hips, but also some gratitude for this practice. Not just this practice today, but this beautiful discipline as a whole that's been carried forward for thousands of years. I don't know about you, but it's just been a real life changer for me. So much gratitude to the art and science of yoga. And then take one more huge inhale. Big exhale through the mouth. Palms to the forehead, just reminding us to be present. Palms to the lips, reminding us to speak our truth. Palms to the heart, reminding us to keep our hearts open so that kindness and compassion and love can flow both ways. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you are now a big fan of the beauty of the booty, as I like to call it. Thank you for joining me. Namaste.